Fauci. Fauci. All right, so this fraud belongs probably something worse than prison, probably get more. Now, you know, when I say things like that and I talk about these statist politicians, governors, all of that stuff, the reason why I say these guys belong in prison is because their actions, directly speaking, we can point to it, lead to policies that are effectively acts of aggression on peaceful people. Right? So that makes you a fucking criminal. Okay? With that being said, for those of you that don't know, Fauci, thousands upon thousands of emails have been released, leaked rather, of him going back and forth with certain folks. How that happened, I'm not even actually sure. That's not actually really important. What we do know is that some things have been either revealed or confirmed, and some people are still going through it. I saw really recently also one that I believe he's going back and forth with Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. Now, considering that, there are some things that were more so confirmed. One of which is going to be the main topic for this segment. But what we for sure know is the whole idea about the potential lab leak thing, that he knew about that and he was aware. He was aware of it, at least according to the emails. Now, he may have ignored it, but it is what it is. The whole gain of function thing, which he denied as well, that was all in the email. So again, it's damning evidence and information. But the main thing that I want to talk about is this, because there's so many angles that we have to discuss in that regards. Now, some of you guys that are watching this aren't going to be able to see. Some of the sides are going to be chopped off, but I'll read to you what it is that is being said. He was emailing Sylvia Burwell, and this is what Fauci said. He says, Sylvia, this is back in February 5th, 2020, last year. It says, masks are really for the infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting unaffected people from acquiring infection, which, again, that's kind of a little consistent to what the position has been. That's why they had said, oh, well, my mask protects you, your mask protect me. Continuing on, the typical mask you buy in the drugstore, cloth mask, all these sorts of things, is not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. It might, however, provide some slight benefit and keep out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes on you. I do not, again, this is coming from Fauci, I do not recommend that you wear a mask, particularly since you are going to a very low risk location. Your instincts are correct. Money is best spent on medical countermeasures such as diagnostics and vaccines. Now, obviously, this was a pivot. This was early on. This was consistent. We saw that if you look at the 60 Minutes interview, he said the exact same thing, or something. They said that plus more, talking about people touching their face, how mask gives you kind of the false sense of security and you shouldn't be wearing it. Then it changed. Now, this isn't just him. This change was with a lot of public experts. He was just leading the charge, and they put him as like the sort of beacon of truth. And you have to ask yourself, and this is what some people are going to say, well, the science, this is how it works. It changes. I don't think people understand how that makes absolutely no sense in this regard. This is supposed to be an expert. There have been studies. There have been plenty of studies that have been done about the effectiveness of masks as it pertains to not only viruses, viruses, obviously, upper respiratory illnesses, controlled environments, non-controlled environments, types of different masks. And as I've said many times, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when I was covering this idea where people were starting to change on this, I said that, look, they were inconclusive. And then we had that recent, what was that, Louisville? If I'm not mistaken, University of Louisville. Dr. Guerrero, I think was his last name. I could be getting that college wrong, but obviously that's what kind of that evidence was showing as well, or rather what that study was showing. It's less about, saying that it does not work and more about saying that it's inconclusive. So you can't make a positive claim and saying that it is effective in doing that because there's been evidence, obviously, in studies to the contrary. So what changed? We get, obviously, the world focusing on this. That's one thing that did happen. But why on earth would all of those studies, for example, just go out of the complete, like it just went out the window. And then on top of that, Fauci would confirm some of those concepts. So it then up and changed, and we're supposed to just accept it like, well, there's no politics at play. Nobody has anything to gain for kicking this can down the road. It's not about giving people some false sense of security. It's not about any of that. We're supposed to just accept it like, okay, this is what the quote unquote expert said. When again, this is a man that up until then, he was almost 80, either was 80 years old or almost 80 years old when he sent this out. And over that course of the last 80 years or how long he had been in medicine and been a public health expert or whatever it is that you want to call. And that was his position up until then. And then it just up and changed. Now, I'm not saying that people's minds aren't able to be changed. Rightfully so. What I'm saying is it's not like they presented something to the contrary. It wasn't like it was a random control trial that said, okay, this was the fact. No, it wasn't that. Again, the ones that we got, such as the Danish study, still came to the same conclusion that it's inconclusive in terms of the effectiveness of masks. And not seeing really a whole lot of statistical significant changes from the infections in regards to people covering their faces, having diapers on their faces versus not. So I know a lot of people are going to focus on, okay, well, he knew about this. He said he didn't know about that. But my issue more so is it amplifies the fact that this was information that he was also advising people on, and then he up and changed. And then you get people that are going to cover for him, like such as the mainstream media. And they're going to say things like this. Thousands of emails from and to Dr. Fauci reveal the weight that came with his role as a rare source of, this is unbelievable that I'm reading this, of frank honesty within Trump administration's COVID-19 task force. Like that's what that's what they walked away from. And not that he lied, not that he claimed that he had no part of this, so basically vindicating Rand Paul on a lot of this, especially as it pertains to the funding of this Wuhan lab and all of this stuff, of being knowledgeable on this versus not. That's what they came out of this. Like, oh my God, he was going through all this and man, he was a rare source of frank honesty. Like, what? That's why we say that the corporate press are the enemies of the people. This is a big example of it. And unfortunately, you have a lot of stupid people who only get their information from sources such as this. It doesn't happen. It's not legitimate if it doesn't come from them. This man belongs, as far as I'm concerned, in prison, along with his constituents and along with people that, not just about the mask thing, more so with Fauci, when it came to lockdowns and his positions on that, again, which led to actual acts of aggression, actual people being put out of work, dipping into their savings because their businesses closed down, that there's no getting on the other side of this and not being economically worse off. Now, he is the highest paid government or federal government employee. He's taken care of. He's got a book deal. We talked about that in the News and Why It Matters over at Blaze. He has a new book deal. And apparently, during this time, I'm supposed to believe he was all stressed out. He had enough time to be writing books. And you wondered, and this was a point that I did make there, you wonder, you guys that are so confused, that why would all of these people that claim to be experts that are working for the government, why on earth would they continue to kick the can down the road when it came to the COVID-19 pandemic if it wasn't as bad as what they were saying that it was, or they were presenting it as? You have to follow the money and look who all had something to gain. And that's worldwide. You look at how they were able to, you talk about one of the biggest wealth transfers that we've ever seen in modern human history over the past year, solely because of not the virus, but because the government's response to it. There's a lot of people that had a lot to gain when it comes to Dr. Fauci. My position is that he's just a narcissist, and that he loves this limelight. This guy went 80 years being virtually unknown to the American public. Yes, he was part of a lot of, it's funny how far he goes back. You can see videos of people that have obviously been uncovered or just were rediscovered. and people that were condemning the actions of the government, definitely when it came to the AIDS pandemic, and Fauci was one of those that got mentioned. He's been around forever, but he wasn't a household name. He became a household name. He was rewarded with money and fame. And you wonder why what incentive did they have to continue to have this go? Even when the jig should have been up, they still continue this on. Hell, there's still places throughout this country right now that's still trying to extend this bull crap when the jig has long been up. It's because they have so much to gain from it, and he's one of them. There are going to be a lot of people out there talking about his emails and looking at what the things that he knew, claimed that he wasn't knowledgeable on. Some of the things that he said, obviously a lot of them being contradictory to what he's saying right now. Media figures are going to cover for him, saying, okay, he can change his opinion, stuff changes. This is what the CDC said, is all of this sort of stuff, which we get that. That's not the issue. It's that we're supposed to believe that this is about science. Why is it up and changing like at the drop of a hat? And how is it going to the contrary of what you had known up until then? And they act as if because you aren't in that position, you can't dare question their Lord and Savior, Fauci. And this is why I say that this is a religion to them. And even the doctors and the medical experts that were in that same field that said things to the direct contrary of what he said, they were shunned. Fauci belongs in prison. You just watched a clip from our podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.